We are back on Morning Line. Our guest, it is Davidson County Sheriff Daron Hall. Always good to have him. He's been coming on this show for years now, I think, at least once a month. You don't have to, and I know how busy you are, and between you and Carla, who's terrific, thank you for still doing this.
Thank you. Enjoy doing it. I think it's great.
And I will just say this, there are a heck of a lot of law enforcement officials that would love to do this. I mean, not locally. I mean, not in Davidson, but other counties. But for them, you know, and we'll invite them.
Right.
But to get them regular, the drive, the distance, and all of that, it's sometimes harder. But you know, I have them ask me all the time, and I say, yeah, we'll schedule it. But a regular gig,
well,
you must be hot stuff.
Well, I don't know about that. I do appreciate it though.
Okay.
That there are a lot of questions that people
absolutely, and it's the biggest city in Middle Tennessee, and that's what counts. Let's go to Joe. Joe, good morning. Hi, Joe.
Good morning, Nick and Sheriff.
Hey, good morning, Joe.
Fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. Nice and cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You sound like you have a cold, Joe.
No, that's just my morning voice.
Okay. I hope you're well. Hope you're well.
I'm okay. Just a question for the sheriff, and then I'll make a couple of quick comments. Would he be for? I think I've heard him say before, but would he be for changing the charter to where the sheriff department and the police department went back as one, not one, but operating for enforcing the law, other than what you do right now? I know, you know, where you run the jail and serve civil warrants, but it's getting to the point that, and we're seeing it all over the country, and we're seeing a little of it here, where people don't respect officers of any kind, and even for the sheriff department serving civil warrants. When you go to serve a civil warrant, you don't know for sure that some fool is not going to shoot you standing at the door.
Well, I'll tell you, and I saw you tweeted it, we all covered it, but I mean, they were serving, it looked like responding to a warrant or a call of drugs at this house, and they were going to serve a search warrant to go in, which I don't know that you always serve search warrants, but you guys serve warrants. Those 5 officers, 4 of whom were shot, 1 injured a knee by these hoodlums in this house in is Florida, right?
No, Texas.
I mean, I'm sorry, Texas. There's been so many shootings. I get in Texas, and that was awful. I mean,
yeah, and you know, Nick, and it's well documented that the most dangerous thing oftentimes is knocking on the door serving a warrant. It's not what sometimes people may expect. You know, the altercation deal. It's really knocking on the door when someone knows you're coming. And we had an officer shot and killed and ambushed in '95 doing that. And you know, and it's to me, and Joe hit it. I mean, I want the country to get back into a place where we can appreciate those men and women who are in our military and law enforcement who've chosen that career to protect us. That's what the job is. And yes, there's bad apples. There's bad apples in the media, and bad apples in the banking, and bad apples on the complainers who call in here and complain. I mean, that's just the way it is. But we've got to find a way. And the reason is, you know, I hope my kids grow up here in Nashville, but wherever they grow up, you know, I want them to have a safe place to live, and I want them to respect authority and so forth. And right now, recruitment of people who want to go in this line of work, when it's been a very tough several years, and you know, and I think some of it's unfair, some of it's a bad situation, and granted, there are bad officers that need to be dealt with. I think society is getting better at doing that. There's now some that are being prosecuted in other cities, and in Nashville as well. We'll see if the courts determine guilt or not. But the truth is, we've got to get it back to a place to understand that you need a role of who's in charge and who is protecting our communities, and it's hard to do. And you know, Joe mentioned would I support the change in the charter. You know, I'm on the twilight of my time here. I've been there a long time. I enjoy what I do. I have some goals to finish up, some things to do. It may, if luck works out, maybe another term, and I think that would be it for me as far as getting what I'd like to do done. But that being said, I do believe Nashville probably hurt itself with the COB conversation. Not because I'm against accountability. I think you could do that. My opinion is that we should review the charter and move the police department back under the elected office of sheriff. The state law requires you have to elect a sheriff. You can't get around it. You do not have to have a chief of police. What you would do is you would have the elected sheriff, which is by state constitution, the law enforcement officer, chief law enforcement officer of every county. When you formed a metro government, what we did was we basically created a metro police department. They do fine work. I'm not against the people. But when you're talking about accountability, the public believe that they have direct say-so in who runs this office, and the public believes they can hold me accountable if there's an officer who is or is not. Trust me, I get phone calls all the time. Your officer drives too fast. He eats too much. I mean, the public believes that they should, because they put you in this office. So it wouldn't solve the problems. It does not eliminate a bad shooting or a bad police officer. But what it does do is the accountability, which is what COB really is built around.
The Citizens Oversight Board that just named its members.
Okay. They want public accountability for the police chief. That's what it's all about. And my point is, we have an elected DA who's the most powerful position in the county. The chief of police, this is not for me. I would be gone by the time all this would ever clear up. But Joe's question is a really good one. I think the city would have done itself a favor in slowing down and saying, wait a minute, let's figure out what do we really want law enforcement to be. I think it should be an elected position. That's the way it's set up in our state. That's the way most people in the country believe.
But aren't most cities, I mean, and I know Metro's different in metropolitan government, but most cities have a sheriff who's elected, okay, and covers most of the county, like Rutherford County. And then in Murfreesboro, the biggest city in Rutherford County, they have a police chief who answers not to the public. He is hired by the city manager. And that's, most cities are like that, aren't they?
Except the cities that are metro government. And metro government is a new movement. It is Indianapolis, Louisville, here, Denver. I mean, most cities are moving to a one. And so the theory behind metro is you would have one system, one school system, one. I mean, that's how the money and the savings
would you believe you're more accountable than, say, Chief Anderson because you answer to the voters, whereas Chief Anderson answers to the mayor?
There's no doubt about it.
No doubt about it.
No doubt about it. No,
okay, because
that doesn't mean I'm better at my job.
Oh, no. I know that's, but I guess I could say that's for better or for worse, because Steve is a little bit insulated from the politics. And you know how the public sometimes can just get over going something. It can hurt you politically, and you know in your heart what they're after here. It's just because of the furor right now, but they're wrong. You don't want to do it. But maybe you feel the political wind's blowing and you kind of have to go that way, where Steve has a little insulation from Mayor Briley, doesn't have to be so concerned with that. You know, I can see it going both ways.
Yeah, but don't forget, you're forgetting something. The person who's more powerful than the chief of police, the mayor, and the sheriff is the DA, and they're elected.
Right.
It's the most powerful position.
Well, and they're most powerful because they can indict you and put you in jail. That's the only reason they're the most powerful, and that's a big thing. Right, of course, you have to commit a crime.
Sure, but we're talking about the police and worrying about law enforcement having an elected office. The truth is, the most powerful position that could be, unfortunately, influenced, good or bad, by politics.
I see what you're saying.
It's higher than any of the positions we're talking about.
And I think we'd be naive if we say, not just in this administration, but we see that happening.
Sure, but here's the thing. I mean, I know for sure. I've worked with 4 or 5 different police chiefs, 4 mayors, I guess. I know for a fact that the policies of the mayor, certain mayors, at certain times, directly influenced the way law enforcement was being performed in our community. Now, the problem is the public don't know that. The public have no. I mean, what if the public, if you did it right now, what if the public didn't believe we need body cameras? Okay. But and by the way, what if the chief of police didn't believe we need body cameras? But someone over here who knows nothing about law enforcement, what if they said we're going to put body cameras on people? Yeah. Because it was the winds of time that were blowing. And the point of this is, I think the person who runs that organization needs to be accountable for the decisions that you're making and running it. I don't think you deserve the insulation, because quite frankly, then what's happening is the person that you put in office, who has no knowledge usually of law enforcement, is making policy decisions directly impacting how our community is being enforced. And I don't agree, personally, that you deserve insulation, because I think if you're going to hire or fire someone, in one of these controversial settings, that person needs to be accountable to it.
Because I was going to suggest as we go to break, how about an appointment of sheriff for life? Kind of like the Supreme Court.
It feels like life sometimes. You think,
All right, listen, I see your point on that. Listen, we've got more calls, but we've got to take a break. When we come back, and that's a very interesting conversation. And who knows, down the road, that may be the path we go. But right now, we know where you sit. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more right after this.